Grace Delaney wiped down the counter of the coffee shop for the third time that evening, her hands moving with the rhythm of habit, but her mind was miles away. At 28, Grace carried the weight of the world in her soft brown eyes. Eyes that held both quiet strength and a sorrow she could never quite shake. Her fingers brushed against the jade, heart necklace resting against her collarbone, a keepsake from her late mother. It was more than jewelry, it was a promise of hope, of better days. But right now, hope felt like a distant dream. Across town, the storm rattled the windows of Grayson Enterprises' newest Ashwood branch. Thomas Grayson stood at the top floor, staring out at the rain-soaked city below. At 35, he was the picture of success, tall, sharply dressed, with dark hair and an air of quiet command. But tonight, his thoughts weren't on business. They were on a memory, a night of rain, a stranger's kindness, a fleeting glimpse of something, someone he could never forget. His fingers absently traced the edge of his desk where a small photo sat. His wife, Rachel Monroe, smiling back at him, but the smile never reached her eyes. Back at the coffee shop, Grace glanced at the clock. 9:30 p.m. Her shift was almost over, and soon she could go home to Samuel, her 5-year-old son. Sam was her everything. A bright, laughing boy with her same brown curls and a heart too fragile for this world, a heart that was failing. The doctors had been clear. Sam needed surgery, $300,000 worth of surgery, or he wouldn't make it past the year. Grace's hands trembled as she locked up the shop. She had no family, no savings, no way to get that kind of money, but she would find one. Because 5 years ago, on another stormy night, Grace had saved a man's life. A man she never knew was Thomas Grayson. A man who had spent years searching for her, only to be deceived by the one person Grace had once trusted most. And now, fate was about to bring them back together. Grace stepped into Grayson Enterprises the next morning, her stomach twisting into knots. The polished marble floors and gleaming glass walls felt like another world, one she didn't belong in, but she had no choice. Double shifts, extra pay, every penny counts. Sam clung to her hand, his small fingers warm against hers. "Mommy, is this where you're gonna work now?" She forced a smile. "Yeah, baby, just for a little while." The receptionist handed her a badge and a schedule. "You'll start tonight, 3rd floor, East Wing. Mr. Grayson likes it spotless." Grace's breath hitched at the name, Grayson. She knew it, of course, everyone in Ashwood did, but she never imagined he was the man she'd saved that night. The man whose blood had stained her scarf, whose green eyes had locked onto hers with something like awe before she ran. She hadn't stuck around to learn his name. Thomas's office, 8:47 p.m. Thomas rubbed his temples, exhaustion weighing on him. The storm had kept him awake, that same fragmented memory playing on loop, a woman's voice, gentle but firm. "Stay with me." And then, the birthmark, a delicate shape, like a bird's wing, just above her wrist. He'd spent years searching for her, only to have Rachel present him with the jade necklace and a story that fit. He'd believed her, married her, but lately doubt gnawed at him. A knock at his door. "Come in." His assistant stepped inside. "Sir, the new cleaning staff starts tonight. Just wanted to confirm you'll be working late?" Thomas nodded. "I'll be here." 3rd floor, 10:12 p.m. Grace mopped the hallway outside the executive offices, her muscles aching. The building was eerily quiet, the hum of the fluorescent lights her only company. Then, footsteps. She froze as a shadow stretched across the polished floor. "Working late?" The voice sent a shiver down her spine. Deep, smooth, familiar. Grace turned slowly, her grip tightening on the mop handle. Thomas Grayson stood less than 3 feet away, his tailored suit immaculate, his gaze sharp. But there was something else in his expression, something like recognition. Her pulse roared in her ears. He doesn't know. He can't. She dropped her eyes. Just finishing up, sir. A beat of silence. Then, have we met before? Grace's throat went dry. Run. But this time, she couldn't. Not with Sam's life on the line. She forced herself to meet his eyes. I don't think so, Mr. Grayson. He studied her, his gaze lingering on the jade necklace peeking out from her collar. That's a beautiful piece. Grace's hand flew to it instinctively. It was my mother's. Something flickered in his expression. Funny. My wife has one just like it. Grace's blood turned to ice. Rachel. Rachel's penthouse. 11:30 p.m. Rachel Monroe swirled her wineglass, staring at her reflection in the floor-to-ceiling windows. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. She's back. Rachel's fingers tightened around the glass. Grace Delaney wasn't supposed to come back. Ether. The jade necklace felt like a noose around Grace's neck as Thomas's words hung between them. My wife has one just like it. Her pulse hammered so violently she was certain he could hear it. Rachel, her once best friend, the girl who'd shared secrets and sleepovers with her, had not only stolen her identity, but had built an entire life on that lie. Grace forced her fingers to unclench from the mop handle. Must be a coincidence, she murmured, avoiding his searching gaze. Thomas didn't move. The air between them thickened with something unspoken, electric. Then his phone buzzed, shattering the moment. He glanced at the screen, his jaw tightening. Rachel, he muttered, more to himself than to Grace. Grace used the distraction to step back. I should get back to work. He nodded absently, already, typing a response, but as she turned away, his voice stopped her. What's your name? The question was casual, but his eyes, sharp, calculating, belied his tone. Grace, she said before she could think better of it. Something flickered in his expression. Grace, he repeated, as if testing the weight of it. She hurried down the hall before he could say more, her mind racing. Stupid. So stupid. She should have given a fake name, but it was too late now. Rachel's penthouse. Midnight. Rachel stared at the text on her screen, her perfectly manicured nails digging into her palm. Unknown number. She's working at Grayson Enterprises. Thomas spoke to her tonight. She threw her phone onto the couch, where it bounced against the cushions. 5 years. 5 years. She'd spent carefully crafting her life with Thomas, ensuring he never questioned her story. And now, Grace waltzed, back in like a ghost. Her son, Henry, stirred in his bedroom down the hall. Rachel took a steadying breath. She wouldn't let Grace ruin this. Not when she was so close to securing everything. She picked up her phone and dialed a number she hadn't used in years. It's me, she said when the line connected. We have a problem. Grace's apartment. 1:17 a.m. Grace tiptoed into the apartment, exhaustion dragging at her limbs. Mrs. Langley, her elderly neighbor, dozed in the armchair, Sam curled up, asleep beside her. Grace gently shook the older woman's shoulder. Mrs. Langley, I'm back, thank you. The woman blinked awake. Oh, Grace, that boy of yours, he asked for you before he fell asleep. Grace's heart clenched. She pressed a kiss to Sam's forehead, her fingers brushing the faint scar from his last surgery. $300,000. She had no idea how she was going to get it, but she would. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. An unknown number. Frowning, she opened the message and her blood turned to ice. Unknown number. Leave Ashwood, now, or you'll regret it. Grace's hands shook. Only one person would send that, Rachel. Grayson Enterprises, next morning. Thomas sat at his desk staring at the personnel file in front of him, Grace Delaney. The name meant nothing to him, and yet he flipped open the file. Her photo stared back at him. Soft brown eyes, a quiet resilience in her expression. Something about her tugged at him, a memory just out of reach. His intercom buzzed. "Mr. Grayson, your wife is here." Thomas closed the file. "Send her in." Rachel swept into the office, flawless as always, in a tailored dress, her jade necklace gleaming at her throat. "Darling," she said, leaning in to kiss his cheek, "I thought we could have lunch." Thomas forced a smile. "Of course." But as she turned to gather her purse, his gaze dropped to her necklace, the one she'd claimed was proof she'd saved him that night. For the first time, he wondered if it was all a lie. Grace stared at the threatening text until the screen blurred. Rachel wasn't just warning her, she was declaring war. Sam whimpered in his sleep, his small fingers clutching his teddy bear. Grace tucked the blanket tighter around him, her mind racing. She couldn't run. Not without Sam's medical records, not without money. But staying meant playing right into Rachel's hands. A knock at the door shattered the silence. Grace froze. Too late. Grayson Tower, 9:15 a.m. Thomas scrolled through security footage on his office monitor, zooming in on Grace mopping the hallway last night. There, when she reached to adjust her necklace, her sleeve slipped a birthmark. Delicate, shaped like a bird's wing, his coffee cup slipped from his fingers, shattering on the floor. "I'll find you," he'd whispered to his mystery savior that night. And now, after all these years, his assistant burst in. "Sir, the police are downstairs. They're asking about one of our cleaners, Grace Delaney."